In this video, I'm sharing my experience with doing ayahuasca. Now, I've done quite a lot of psychedelics, and surprisingly, ayahuasca hasn't been the most transformational of the psychedelics for me. In fact, it would probably be mushrooms and 5-MeO-DMT that have been the most transformational for me. But I do want to share my experience so maybe you can learn from it. So in the times that I have done ayahuasca, the first 3 times were in the US, and then the last time was in Ecuador. So the first time I did ayahuasca, I didn't feel anything. In fact, the ceremony started around midnight, and we drank, and the next thing I know, I passed out. I slept through the entire thing. I didn't feel anything from it, which I guess is common. That can happen. The second time I did ayahuasca, I actually felt it. And the feeling was pretty sensational. I was laying on the ground and I had a blanket over me, and I didn't know where I stopped and the blanket started. The blanket and I were one. I saw all kinds of different fractals and colors, different just winding and undulating shapes and colors were just all in my mind's eye. I also felt pretty intense emotion, and I cried a lot, and I also did throw up. And it's my understanding that the shamans like to say that when you do evacuate, either by mouth or through your ass, that it actually is a process of letting go and releasing energy and just shit that no longer serves you anymore. And they actually call it getting well instead of getting sick. So they have a totally different way as to how they look at throwing up or, shitting. So I threw up, and I let go of a lot of just tension and trauma within my energetic body. So probably the most transformational thing was the third time when I did ayahuasca. I was sitting outside in a lounge chair, just kind of sitting around a fire, processing stuff. And I look up into the sky at the stars, and all of a sudden the thought came to me, which I never thought of before, never crossed my mind, was that if my mom would have known better, she would have done better. And it was at that time when I had that download that I just started bawling my eyes out and crying. It was something that just never came across my mind before, and it was this new understanding and empathy I had for my mother, because our relationship is rough. It's not a good relationship, and to think about that in a new way, to frame it in a different way, made me have more understanding for my mom, and it brought me a different sense of relief and love towards my mother as well. And then the other time in which we've done ayahuasca was we actually sat in ceremony in Ecuador. So when we were in Ecuador, we found people who were hosting a ceremony, and we ended up attending it, and it was a bunch of local Ecuadorians. We were 2 of the only 4 gringos there, and the ceremony was done in Spanish. My partner could kind of speak Spanish, so he was able to translate for me. During this ceremony, it was just an intense ceremony where mainly what I experienced was a lot of visual stuff, but I didn't really process any trauma or anything. The cool thing about this ceremony, which was eye-opening for me, was to see there was this one Ecuadorian family that came, and it was a pregnant mother with her husband, and then the grandparents and a son who was probably around 6 years old. And from my recollection, they all drank. Now, the woman who was pregnant didn't have a lot, and neither did the 6-year-old, but they all had some ayahuasca. And it was kind of, to see another culture and the way that they handle drugs and how they introduce it to the younger generation in a way where they're doing it with people who are responsible. They're doing it in a ceremonial setting, and they're taking away the taboo that is surrounding drugs in Western culture was really refreshing and pretty incredible to see. So I do want to say this. As I mentioned, ayahuasca is a pretty awesome and incredible experience. I had only done mushrooms and a couple of other things before doing ayahuasca, and it opened me up to a different level of understanding of the universe and that there's more to life and this realm than meets the eye. And certainly I experienced that on mushrooms, but I never experienced it to this level because the ayahuasca was just so strong, and I had only done more smaller doses of mushrooms, like 1 or 2 grams. Now, that said, I have experienced what I would feel was ayahuasca-like experiences when doing higher doses of mushrooms. So when I did my heroic dose of mushrooms, I did 5.55 grams, which you can check out the video in the description below for that as well, the trip report from it. The 5.55 grams of mushrooms felt a lot like an ayahuasca experience. And another thing to note is I've only ever done ayahuasca ceremonies where you sit in circle once. So you're only getting served the ayahuasca in one night or one weekend. I will say there's no doubt about it that people can have really amazing, life-changing experiences from ayahuasca. I'm just curious if I haven't really gone that deep with ayahuasca, because when I've done ayahuasca, I've only ever done it like once during a weekend. Whereas if you go to a retreat center and you're there for about 7 days, you're doing ayahuasca 3 to 4 times in a week. And through that, I feel that you might be able to work on shit really hardcore and process and work on stuff a lot deeper than you might if you only ever did it, you know, one time. In fact, back in April, I was supposed to go down to Peru to a retreat center to experience ayahuasca with them to see if whether or not their medicine was good enough to bring people down with me for retreats in the future. But the lockdown happened and that trip got canceled. So I am looking to do ayahuasca again. I have faith in its ability to help people. And I am looking to do it again in a retreat setting where I am doing it multiple times in a week to see how helpful it is to then be able to bring people with me and share this medicine with others, with somebody that they can trust and know that they're going to a reputable retreat center instead of just some place that's going to rip you off or do you dirty. So, keep your eyes peeled for that, because that may be coming in the future if this lockdown situation improves any. But if you found this video super interesting, or if you would like to join me on an ayahuasca retreat in the future, comment as well, because I will be sure to keep you guys posted on if this ever comes to fruition. Please be sure to subscribe to my channel, like it, share the video if you found it interesting, and also if you feel called to, look me up on Instagram. My handle is @Kelly_Hanner. And if you also feel called to support my message on spreading awareness and responsible use of psychedelics, please go ahead and check me out on Patreon. You can find me through my name and in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Peace, guys.